Hi there, this is Ethan Brown with The Woodsman's Way, and today we're going to take one of these yucca leaves and turn it into rope that we can use around the camp. So stick around and I'll show you how it's done.
Alright, so what we're looking for is two rocks, really. Along this creek bed here, we got quite a few large rocks that are just set in place that we could probably use. But then again, you might not have that at your place. So we're going to find two rocks. The one is going to need to be a smooth rock for the pounding. That will keep us from cutting our yucca plant. And then the other one is going to be a flat surface we can pound against. So let's take a look and see what we got here. I'm not seeing very many flat ones over here. Let's check on the side. Let's see what we got. Let's see, well, there's a halfway smooth one right here. It's a little bit large, but that will help us take less wax at it. So I think we'll use this one for our smasher, and then let's find a nice flat rock to smash against. Let's see what we got. This one here will do. It's got a nice flat surface on it, so we'll use these two and we'll get with it.
Alrighty, we got our two rocks and I think we're good to go. Now, one thing I will note is it is raining out here, so if the camera gets wet, that's probably why. But like Sean Kelly says, if you ain't raining, you ain't training. So let's get to it. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is it doesn't really matter which side you start with because you end up banging both sides of it. But the whole idea is to get the pulp out of the plant, all the green and moisture out of it, so that it breaks up those fine fibers. And if you look, see if I can get a good view here, you can see those fine fibers in there, and there's tons of them in there that you can use for your rope, whether you're using, making string or making rope. So the whole idea is just to break those out and get those out there, so then you can pull them into strands and then weave your rope from there. So I'll get the camera down here so you can see what we're doing. Alrighty, so we got our flat surface and the rock. You're going to notice that these are different than what we grabbed off the creek. I started hammering on the flat surface I had before and actually cracked it in 3 different pieces. So that's one thing you're going to have to consider when you're grabbing rocks, and just try them out. I would go ahead and whack on a couple times, especially if you don't have a lot of yucca plant and you want to conserve that resource. Go ahead and whack on that rock a couple times, maybe cut a little piece off the yucca plant or just hit on a little piece of it, because the rocks I had chose actually had some sharp edges on it that I didn't realize, and started to cut the yucca plant in half, which won't do. So got these other 2 pieces I've whacked on a couple times, seems to be doing pretty good. So I'll get the camera adjusted here and we'll be using these to get going. So stick around, I'll be right with you. Alright, so we're good to go, we got our thing here. Another thing I went ahead and did was add some leaves on it, and then we can go ahead and put some water on top of it just to kind of keep them down. This will help protect your yucca plant as you're working with it, so that you don't accidentally cut it into any of the sharp edges that might be on this rock, which you will find out soon enough as soon as you start banging on it. You're going to want to find, like I said before, a nice smooth edge on here. You just have to experiment a little bit with it. Make sure you get an edge that isn't going to cut it. Yeah, the edge there seems to be cutting it, so we're going to have to find a different one there. See, it's really easily. I'll show you. You can see that pulp coming out of it. That's what we want. Breaking those fibers out, breaking those little hairs out. Alright, so we got our yucca weed processed. Now we're going to go ahead and scrape all the pulp off. Now you're going to want to be very careful on this process here, because this is where you're going to start ripping the fibers up the most. As long as you kind of protect and kind of pad the yucca plant on the bottom when you're hitting on it with a rock, you should be good. But when you start to go scraping the pulp offs, even with just a blunt knife or a sharp knife, just a knife in general, even if you do a knife, you're going to want to be very careful, because what would happen is your knife blade will catch on the fibers and pull them right out. Will cut it and pull it out. And so at that point, you're going to have a weak rope, because now you have missing fibers in the center of your mass of natural fibers. So let's go ahead and start scraping. Alright, so we got it pretty well scraped. I did mainly the center for this demonstration because that's what we're going to use. We're going to try to get rid of this outermost area. It did not seem to come off as easy. Now, if you were in a dire survival situation, you'd want to try to process as much as this is possible, but we're obviously not. So we're going to just get rid of the edges where most of that green pulp was still there and didn't seem to want to come off. But even doing that, I mean, we have plenty of fibers. You can see them all in the center there. I mean, there's plenty there to make a nice rope for tying tent down, or pretty much anything you need. Now we got some of the stuff down here at the bottom. This was during our earlier testings with our rock, and that seemed to get chopped up pretty good. So we'll keep as much as possible, but we'll probably stop about right here. I'll go ahead and use that rock we had and go ahead and cut that. Alright, so the next process, and this is the piece I've seen done, I believe, but this is something that I personally do almost every time, is take it, split it in half, and then flip. So you basically take the bottom of one side and put it with the top of the other. This will allow it to even up those loose ends, because you'll notice the leaf obviously comes down to a point. So those last few fibers, you're not going to have as many on the end. So it's better to go ahead and do that. It allows you to not have to cut the end off, and you end up saving, it's not much, but it could count, saving those last few fibers on the ends. So at this point, once you flipped it, then you're just going to basically go through and divide them out just to break up the fibers. So as you're weaving them together, you get a better chance at making an even rope. And if you drop pieces, just stick them back on there. It ain't going to hurt nothing. And as you can see, you can break them down to some pretty fine fibers. You can see that. I mean, so you can make some nice string out of that if you needed to. Even in the rain, you can still hear the squirrels chirping in the background. Alright, so we got it pretty well broken up. So now we're going to move on to the weaving process. I'll get the camera situated so you can see my hands, and we'll get right to it. Alright, before we start weaving, we're going to go ahead and tie just a simple overhand knot in the bottom or the top, it doesn't really matter, of your rope. And you're going to end up leaving this. This will become part of the rope. So make sure you get make sure you get all the strands through and make it look nice. Alright, so we got our knot in there. So now we're going to just split this down the middle as much as, we're just going to eyeball this, get it as even as possible. And what you're going to do is you're going to twist one side. Oops, sorry, we're going to flip it around. Sorry about that. We're going to flip it on upside down. We're going to twist one side towards us, towards the inside. 1, 2 twists, whatever feels good to you. And then you're going to fold this other one over top and pinch it between your hands. Then we're going to twist it in again, maybe 1 turn, possibly 2 turns. Just try to make it even. And we're going to pull that other one across it again. So basically we're just weaving it back and forth, and you'll get quick at this. You just weave it towards the center, fold that one over, and pinch it between your hands. And I'll do a couple of these real quick so you can kind of see the pattern you're getting. And I've seen a couple different methods. This is my favorite. I've seen methods where you roll against your knee. I found that, I mean, it has to be, your hands just have to be a little bit, I mean, it's just too hard to try to get it to stick to your hands enough to roll it. I end up smushing against my knee. So this is the easier way of doing it. You just keep crossing back and forth. And you can kind of see the pattern that we're getting there, a nice even rope pattern there. Now, one thing you're going to notice is as you work down, you're going to find out that, well, eyeballing it to get the half mark is not a great method. So, as you come down, if you kind of feel like one side is a little bit thicker than the other, it's as easy as just grabbing a little couple threads, pulling it out, and moving it over to that other side, and then just continue twisting towards the middle, folding over, twisting towards the middle, folding it over, and it'll weave it right in. Alrighty, so we pretty well got it down towards the end of the threads that we have. So now we're going to add in new threads. So basically you're going to do the same process on another yucca leaf, and you're just going to take a piece, and when you bring it in, you're basically going to bend that piece in half, and you're going to fit that in right at where you're holding the last twist. You're going to squish it in there and pull it out, and then you're just going to continue twisting. You're going to twist in with that new piece and the piece you have already on there. Twist it in, move it over, twist it in, and you're going to find, again, that parts of it's going to be a little thicker, and so you'll break it off. Whoop, got a little piece there. Break some of it off, move it over, twist it in, bring it over, twist it in, bring it over. Go ahead and add in another piece. I got a little piece here. And remember, the more pieces, the frequency at which you add the pieces is going to determine how consistent your rope is. Is it going to be thicker? And as you can see, we're getting a little too thick. I think I'll pull that little thread back out again. We're getting a little too thick there. Just continue twisting there. Alright, so we're just about done with this short demo strand. So what I like to do is I'll go ahead and twist it, twist the two threads we have up, and then tie them into a square knot as best we can. If your threads are having some trouble for you, or maybe you don't have as long a thread on the end, you can just go ahead and do a simple overhand knot like we did on the other end of it. This one seems to be working decently well. It's going to look a little rough on the end there, but that adds a little bit of homemadeness, shall we say, to it. Alright, so we're done with our rope. It's about 6 inches. If I wasn't shooting the video, it probably took me about 10 minutes, I'd say. By the time I grabbed the rock, smashed it, did all that we've shown so far. This obviously is pretty short, so you wouldn't be able to use it for a lot of stuff. But the strength of this would probably be good for about like first aid type stuff. But it's still a little thing you can keep in your pack for quite a while, and if you keep it dry, it's going to stick around for even longer. Any natural material is going to decay if you keep it outside in the sun, in the water, and stuff like that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Check out my channel and like and subscribe so you can see more when they come out. If you have any questions, maybe some suggestions for future videos, or even on this project, bushcraft is all about learning from each other. So put the comments in the comments section below, and I'll see you next time. Thanks a bunch for watching.